All right, good. All right, so well, first off, well, thank you for coming tonight. This is just a great opportunity for us to have some dialogue just about with some of the allergies and different sensitivities that we have. And I think the communication is so important, and to have it early so that we're able to make some necessary accommodations, particularly on the trip. And I'll go through a quick introduction. This is Mallory Martin. She's our speech pathologist. But when in regard to the DC trip, she is really working diligently and very hard, and I owe her a very big gift at the end of all this, because she's going to be in charge of some of the food service accommodations while we're on the trip, and working in conjunction with Discovery Tours and all the places that we'll be eating at. So she is very appreciative and very important to this. Kim Lascola, who's our district nurse, is going to be able to provide some background. Not only, have you been on the trip before?
No, I just prepared for it.
No, she just prepares for it. See how she smiles? I'm not smiling. But no, she's able to provide from a medical standpoint for those students who are taking medication, what that's going to look like, if there's an emergency, how those procedures will look like on the trip, because they are so unique. So I'll be listening attentively as well to what Mrs. Lascola is going to be sharing. And over your shoulder here is Joe Cipoletti, who is going to be representative vice president? I think that's what that signature says. Let's call him the president of Discovery Tours, but he's the person that we'll turn to. If any questions from that end, he'll be able to help guide us, so we appreciate him coming tonight as well. So to begin, if you want to click it over, I mean, even though I just went over the introductions. What we're going to do is, and I'm happy to provide some insight as well, and Joe has offered some opportunity to share as well, but we'll start with Mallory, and Mallory's going to be able to talk about really what, from a food service standpoint, what those accommodations are going to look like in regard to allergies and the sensitivities, and then we'll move forward with Mrs. Lascola.
Sure. So, you know, what we ask is that you guys just communicate with us as best as you can what your students' food allergies are, so that we can make the necessary accommodations on the trip. So of course we've got lunch from home, so make sure we're packing things that are on the safe snack list so that we can be cognizant of those families who have students with peanut allergies or gluten allergies, dairy allergies, those things like that. And I know Mrs. Lascola will go over that safe snack list in a little bit. And then as far as breakfast, while we're on the trip, Tuesday and Wednesday, it is an American-style breakfast at the hotel, what you typically think of a continental breakfast, plus we've got eggs, meat, and a waffle usually, and then there's boxed cereal, all kinds of different milks. They've got soy, they've got 2% and everything like that. And the hotel's been great. If there's allergies, if you let us know, we let them know, and then they have certain things available for our students the day of the breakfast. So for example, we've had students with specific fruit allergies, and then they've had a separate bowl of fruit for the students with that allergy in the back. And then when they come in that morning for breakfast, they find a server, tell them their name, they go get it and bring it out to their table. So it's a really nice relationship that we have with the hotel. Oh, sorry. Okay, and then as far as, and we have these printed out, but we'll also post the different links. So as far as while we're there, Tyson's Corner Mall is a very large mall in the area, and the food court's great there. So the students will have reign to go to any of the food options at the mall. And I've provided the link here. Like I said, you guys will get that copy, and it gives you a list of all the places to go at the food court. So you can check their menus or go over what places are safe for your particular students to eat at as far as their allergies are concerned. With the Smithsonian's, while we're on the trip, we'll be traveling with our buses and then in our individual subgroups within those buses. So we don't know where we'll stop to eat, where each group will stop to eat, because we don't all, for example, go to Air and Space because it's only McDonald's and it might take forever to get, you know, your meal there. So we'll split up, but each Smithsonian is listed as far as the food options there, and then you can again review that with your son or daughter who's going on the trip so that they can make some good choices. And then Pentagon City, we have the meal voucher, and again we'll get that uploaded or out to you guys today so that you can see what the options are there as far as all the places that they can eat. Now they are able to eat at food court options that are not provided on the voucher, but that's of course an out-of-pocket expense for your son or daughter. And then really what I want to talk about is the box lunch option that will be happening on our way home from DC. And so that's typically a sub sandwich roll that's turkey, and then you get Lay's potato chips, a cookie, and a fruit snack. This company is fantastic. If you've got a gluten allergy, they can give us a salad. Dairy allergy, no cheese on anything. The cookies are from a nut-free bakery already, but if it's still not a comfort zone, we can do an extra fruit snack. So they make a lot of accommodations. We just need to know that with ample time to get that list to them. And then they'll separate everything for us, put all the labels on it for those specific individuals, and then get those to the right buses for ease of distribution for us. So that's kind of really the layout of the food places that we'll be hitting as we're there. And then, we would love to make accommodations for everybody based on preferences, but unfortunately, we really can only make those accommodations for those who have allergies or sensitivities to certain things. So that's.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the medical piece here. And all of you have already filled out the extracurricular trip form, which I actually have here. They were due in last Friday, and I think just the last couple are coming in now. So those are all done. But I want to talk a little bit about, because you may need to redo them after you hear this presentation. So if on page 1 of this is actually your child's name and any medical diagnosis, and then any medications that they need to take, whether it be prescription or non-prescription, on the trip. So this form needs to be completed, and if your child needs a prescription medication for anything, the doctor needs to fill this out with a doctor's signature, not a parent's signature. So I think in the past we get a lot of these in where the parent may sign the doctor's name, or they just print it out and they have the name, but we have to have a doctor's signature for any prescription medications going on the trip. And then down below there's a section for non-prescription medications, and these will be ones that are not listed on our second page. So go to the next slide and I will show you some common medications. So on our second page of this form, it actually talks about ibuprofen and Tylenol and Benadryl, Tums, a couple other ones that you can just check off and put down 1 or 2 tablets, and we will send that out there for the teachers to carry for your children. You don't have to send those on the trip. But if your child should need something besides those over-the-counter medications, maybe they have seasonal allergies, maybe they have motion sickness, those are probably the 2 big takeaways from the last few years, is that kids, you don't think about it now, but in May, there's a lot of seasonal allergies. A lot of kids will need their nose sprays, they might be on antihistamine, something that we're not going to be able to provide for them. And a lot of kids do get motion sickness. This is a long bus ride down and back. So Dramamine might be the drug of choice you might want to send with your student, your child, and then that needs to be added to the medication page. So you may have to redo this page. You can get another copy of this page from the office and redo it. But all medications going on the trip have to be either on one of these 2 pages of this form. Treatment for headaches also. We have kids that can't take or can't swallow pills, believe it or not, at middle school, and they might take chewables or liquid. We will not send those out. We only send pill form. So if your child needs to take liquid medicine or chewable Tylenol, they should send that in with on the form and bring that in to us. Okay. Okay, I think that's enough on that slide. When the medications be dropped off. So all medications need to be in their original container. So you can't pop out pills and put them in a Ziploc bag and label it yourself. That happens all the time. It's just, it has to come in the original container. Send in only the number of pills that your child will need on the trip. So I don't need 30 pills in 1 bottle and we're going to take 3. So it's just those, because it's really hard to get those back to you. And then it's also just for safety measures. So just the pills needed on the trip. Check all the expiration dates on the medication. Sometimes we keep, Advil and Tylenol or something, antihistamines at home, and we hand them in to us, and the expiration date is like 2014, and I can't take them on the trip. So check expiration dates if they're all current. If you're bringing medications in, put them in a Ziploc bag in their containers with your student's name on it, and then bring them into the nurse. The drop-off dates from May 1st to May 11th. We don't need them before that. And I need them by the 11th, because we have to package these up to take out. And it's a lot of medications for this number of kids. So that's important to know. Okay, we can go to the next one. Delivery. There will be a registered nurse on the trip who will supervise all of the medication giving and actually all the medical care. And all the teachers are trained. There'll be 2 teachers per bus that are trained to give medications. Most of the teachers that are already going on the trip have been trained. So your student, your child will be, if they're taking medication, will know who to get that medication from, when to get it. It'll all be set up. Those teachers also will be carrying any emergency medications like an EpiPen or inhaler. But your child can carry their own also. Those are the 2 medications they can't carry. So asthma inhaler or an EpiPen, they can do a small backpack, that's correct, right? A small backpack to go to some other places with those emergency medicines. But a lot of questions we get is, what if the teacher's not with my child and my child has a reaction? Maybe they have a peanut allergy and they're, at lunch. That's always a concern. That we do say if the child has a severe allergy and you're not sure about where they're going to have their food, have them carry it. The teachers do share their cell phones with the students. And so they know where they are, they keep in touch, they're always with a buddy. So again, I think that is how we, in the past, have kind of calmed parents' fears about that, is that there will be communication with teachers, that teachers can be with that group if they choose to be with them and watch them for lunch and things like that. Dinners and breakfasts are really all together, it's more that lunchtime. So teachers are carrying emergency medications if the student, and sometimes the student's carrying them and the teacher's carrying them. They have them all. So that's how we deliver medication. And I don't think I have any more. Do I have one more after that? That's all I have. Okay. Let's talk a little bit, which is not up there, about safe snack list. So Hudson Schools right now, all classrooms other than the high school, follows the safe snack list. So it's safe from peanut and nuts products. The buses will do that also. So your children can bring snacks on the bus, but they need to come off the safe snack list. So that really eliminates any home-baked goods, things that might be manufactured in a nut or peanut factory. The list is quite extensive, so we really want everyone, for the safety of everybody in the bus. We have a lot of kids on the buses with severe allergies, and we would want that to be safe for everyone. So,
Perfect, yeah.
Okay.
So as you can see, there's just so much valuable information, and when you think about student safety, especially on a 3-day trip, and I didn't introduce myself, although I think many of you know me, Jamie Gans, I'm one of the assistant principals here, but also going to be one of the organizers of this this trip. And it's not that I'm nervous, but when you think about school safety and student safety, it is paramount, especially on these 3 days. And there's some autonomy there, there's some independence for these 8th graders. So we really wanted to start that communication early, just so we can prepare from our end. But I just think there's some pertinent things that we can all, from a preparation standpoint, start thinking about now as we head into March and in preparation for May. Do you have any specific questions that maybe are individual or just some broad questions? And we can give Joe, if anything, in the past, because I mean, you just said you got about 5 of these lined up for March, so I'm sure there's some commonalities from the trips, even not in DC, that you've seen with some students.
Anytime a student is struggling physically, arthritis or what have you, is there a spot to sit and rest for a few minutes to regroup or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, now, again, I haven't been on the trip, but we just selected, we have a great group of chaperones, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and they're all teachers. So they're familiar with the kids, and what they do is they have a responsibility, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but they're in charge of 3 groups. Some chaperones actually will have 2 groups. So we kind of work collaboratively as a team, but as you can imagine, there'll be 4 chaperones for each kind of group, and if one kind of goes back, obviously the other chaperones will help out if there's a need for that. Is that kind of how that would look?
Yeah, I know I've had groups in the past where one of the chaperones from the bus has kind of sat on a bench in like the mall area where all the monuments are, and we've just kind of sat behind and waited for the group to come back. I know that there's been times where we've had just maybe a time on the bus with the chaperone, and everybody kind of went and did their thing, and then whoever needed to rest or whoever wasn't feeling well, stayed back on the bus as well, or stayed back with the nurse has stayed back before, especially if it's a medical concern. But I know that Joe can speak to the Discovery Tours has an option too with kind of a driver.
Yeah, one of the, in terms of just tired and not being able to make a walk, the area that always concerns us is Arlington. Because as motivated as you are when you start, once you commit to that walk, you really have no choice but to come back. And to the changing of the guard, it's almost a mile and a half there, mile and a half back. So the option available, and I know we've never used it here at the school, but if a student would need to use the shuttle, we can get that for you. Where they can take the shuttle, they have to go with the teacher, obviously, we want to go by themselves, but the shuttle will drive them all the way up and pick them up at certain spots. We also have a company vehicle that's in the city. It's difficult to use sometimes because of liability, but we do a lot as Uber. I mean, Uber's everywhere. Looking at the itinerary, the one nice thing is it's lumped together in that if you need to take a break or your child did, you're not going to get left behind by the group at all. I mean, we take care to make sure that everyone is caught up. And if there ever is an issue where a child needs a break, there's always a school chaperone that stays with that child. We wouldn't leave them alone, obviously.
Yeah, and just to continue on with our chaperones, it's, I think, pretty unique this year that we'll have 2 floaters. So I'll be a floater, and Mrs. Wallach, our 8th grade counselor. It's worked out nice that she doesn't have a responsibility with three groups of 4, so 12 students, and she'll be able to kind of float as well. So if there is a situation where a student needs to be back, then either myself or Mrs. Wallach would be able to stay with them or her, which would be a nice feature, I think, this year. Any other just general questions?
As far as snacks, just one more comment. A lot of times the snacks you can't take into, so they don't pass through security. The security guards will confiscate the snacks and the kids are really upset about it. But if they need it for medical purposes, make sure that your child gives that to their chaperone. Because as adults, we can pass through the security with those snacks. So if it's, if they're concerned for any reason, then make sure that they pass a few snacks on to their chaperone, and then they can get those snacks through security.
The other thing I would mention is, if your child has an EpiPen, the Capitol building is the tightest security you can imagine to get through. It doesn't happen often, but there are times where they can confiscate it and they won't give it back to you. So we always ask families to make sure you bring some type of note from a doctor on the letterhead saying that this is an important medical thing that my child needs. So if they do say, hey, you can't get this back, you can pull up a letter and they'll let you keep it. It's rare, but it can happen depending upon what the day is like at the Capitol building. The other thing I would mention too, Mallory, you discussed a little bit about the food courts. On the second day, you'll notice we have listed on the itinerary 2 museums. The National Mall is massive. There's 13 different facilities. Most groups will go to those 2 museums. I don't know if you're aware of it, Air and Space no longer has McDonald's.
What?
The story goes, it was a rat infestation.
Okay.
And
My group's never ate there, but...
lease, and they're trying to get another company to come in, but no one's done it yet.
Oh my gosh.
So American history and natural history are the 2 largest food courts on the National Mall. So it might be a good place to just start to see what they have. But again, we've had groups that just go to the hot dog stand right outside. So it just depends where your child goes. But I would say 75% of the kids will eat at one of those 2 museums.
We also have kids who try to eat Dippin' Dots for dinner at the food courts, or Haagen-Dazs, and I mean, they can get it for dessert, but please encourage them to eat substantial food for lunch and while we're at the food courts, because they will regret their decision to only eat ice cream by 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, to go along with that, we just took some students to the Cavs game, and I had gone down early with 7 of them, and we were going to have lunch, but before we had lunch, they wanted to buy some merchandise to get some autographs. And I saw one student like contemplating, I got a 20, and do I have lunch, or do I go get that basketball to get signed? And I'm like, well, can I be a part of this rationalization for you? I was like, you really got to eat. I'm happy to spot you. But sure enough, he compromised. I think he got like a $10 little banner thing, and then had a little lunch as well. But I could see that happening, for sure. And I know this is about allergies, but I was just starting to think, you never know with the weather. And I know they had one year, we were just talking about it, it was torrential downpour for all day, awful.
Yeah, it was.
And then it was scorching
was
hot
rough.
one year.
Very
So,
fast.
you know, and sometimes, you know, with different heats and different things like that, might be some sensitivities or some considerations from your end as you start planning, to start thinking about that as well.
We had a lot of boys using the hair dryers that year because they were hair drying their shoes,
Mhm.
which I thought was a great.
Yeah.
We walked down the boys' hall, like, why are all the hair dryers going? That was fun. It's
That's
great.
awesome. Being resourceful. We did bring a couple copies with our medical permission sheets. These were due the 23rd, but if you needed one, we have some here for you just in case, even if it's just as a reference. And then I just handed out the meal voucher, which we received, and on the back there's some of the examples of some of the restaurants that your son or daughter will be able to utilize. And then I'll also pass out here, we just thought it'd be helpful for you to have the resources, again, they're not linked out just because it's on paper form, but the places, the mall, Pentagon City Mall, Smithsonian Museum, and then the Tyson's Corner Mall, just as a reference. And what we'll do is we'll also link up the presentation that you saw tonight on our school webpage so that you can have that as accessibility for you on your phones and other devices. And then we'll also, as you can see, we're recording just so we can share that with you and other families who weren't able to attend. But,
And if you do have food allergies and do need accommodations, we have a Google form here tonight for you guys to fill out so that we can start the list to make those accommodations. If you're not here tonight, the Google form will be sent out electronically, and we just ask that you get it back to us as soon as you can so that we can start to contact our vendors and make sure that we have those necessary accommodations made.
Any questions? Joe, anything to add? Are you good? Kim?
I'm good.
Yeah, that was excellent. That was very helpful. Mallory?
Good.
All right, well, short and sweet, 25 minutes in, all good. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.